So I've been putting carpeting in the 76 Corvette, and I've been taking the videos of it, and they are long, and I'm just going to put this little clip in the front of each one because there's a lot of useful information in there, and sometimes I find something out late in the video. So if you're going to do this job, you might want to watch all the videos all the way through, because I'm not going to take the effort to edit it so that the tips are at the front or anything like that, because it's a lot of work. I'm going to work on the passenger side of the carpeting next. I have already taken off this cover from the seatbelt retractor. There are four self-tapping screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go get the piece of carpet and put it in there. So the carpeting kind of fits. What I'm going to do now is to check how much the door sill plate covers, to make sure that I leave enough on there. And the door sills appear to be identical, both sides. So I need to get up across this lip. Hopefully you can see that with the carpet. And the door sill will cover that. The indentation here where the seatbelt retractor is appears to be in pretty good position. I'm going to have to mark this and cut it down. There are two little, I'll show you on the driver's side, there's two little places where you screw in parts of the console, and it's going to have to be notched out to fit around those. And then of course we've got to find all of the bolt holes for the seat mounts. So I'm going to take my time and mark this off and trim it a little bit, and trim around that drain hose for the air conditioner, because that is just a tiny bit in the way. Actually, I could probably just cut the top of that off, because it's so far up under the dashboard that it probably wouldn't matter. I will take a closer look at it, but I'm going to have to get inside the car and lay down on the floor to see where I want to cut that to. I'm using the seatbelt cover, the retractor cover, as kind of a template to tell me what I can take out. I do know that I have to make a bigger notch for the condensation drain line from the air conditioner, but what I've done is I've taken this and I made a nick here in the carpet where it will be right about here, and I'm gonna, there's a hump in the carpet here, and that will give me enough underneath this. And I made a nick over here as well. It'll be way back here. And I'm gonna try and take some of this out. I'll probably need a couple more fittings, but I want to do it a pretty good job. So I got a little bit aggressive there cutting freehand, and I cut it just a 1/16 of an inch too far there. It's under the seat, so it won't be noticeable. The other thing I'm doing that I don't know if it's required is, you see where I have that pick stuck through there? I'm making a hole for the seat belt, and I'm putting carpet under it because all the other ones have carpet under it. And I'm thinking that if they're all carpeted except one, that maybe that will not let the bracket for the seat sit level. And I might tweak it out of level by tightening it down and kind of bending it or twisting it. The other thing I have to do is I have to cut that notch for the condensation drain a little further yet. It's not fitting quite up there like I'd like it to. Okay, I think I've got all of the bolts that hold that cover for the seatbelt retractor down. I've got the one bolt for the seat mount in, hole punched and seat mount in. The only one I'm a little bit unsure of is this one right here, is whether I've got that one started, but we'll find out shortly. Yep. So that's done. Now what I'm going to do is pull this aside and poke for the hole for the seat mount on this side. Can't be very far away from it. There it is. So now what I'll do, now that I've found that, is I'll just peel this back. Mark it, and I'll bring my piece of wood and my punch over and just do it right here because that's a metal floor. And then I'll move on down to the next. I may have to trim this a little bit, but that'll be easy to do with a pair of scissors because of the where it's at. On the other hand, the way that sill plate is made, I think it might just tuck up under it really nice. But you have to be careful, take your time, And I did get that place where I freehand cut it a little bit off. It's covered by the plate that covers the seatbelt retractor. Okay, I've got my board, my punch, my hammer. Just pull that carpet back, put the wood under it, punch my hole in it, and I can move on to the next. The next, by the way, before I forget, is the seatbelt hole on the other side, the mount for the seatbelt. Right, a screw over. Perfect fit. Now to find the seatbelt hole. You won't be able to see this on the camera because the drive shaft hump is in the way, so I'm just going to shut off the camera. And basically that's what I'm going to do, is find the hole, pull it back. That may involve taking out one or two of the bolts that I've already got in, but that's the price you pay. It's easier to do it that way. So this is the seatbelt latch that goes on the passenger side, I believe, because the one on the driver's side has a wire attached to it, like it's maybe for a seatbelt warning light. Maybe they don't have one for the passenger. I know back in the early 70s there was a time when the car wouldn't start unless you had your seatbelt on. But this is the passenger side without the wire. So it can be a little bit of a pain to take the bolts out and put them back in every time you find the hole, but by having it held in place by those bolts, you're sure you're not going to miss the mark because of stretching it too far or not enough or what have you. The seatbelt bolt is kind of giving me a challenge right now. Maybe I'm going to put it on without the seatbelt while I'm punching holes, because I don't really need the seatbelt retainer. So try the one from the upper. That's tight too. Just trying to get a bolt in there to hold it while I punch the next hole. I should have threaded a bolt in there before I even tried to punch the hole. Maybe the threads are messed up a little bit. Got it threaded, and the reason I was having trouble, and this is good to know, I'm glad I recorded it, is that bolt actually is in at an angle from the floor. It's not directly parallel to the floor. So that's going to be as far as I'm going today. I'm going to wrap it up for the day. But I have 2 more seat bolts to find, holes to find, and maybe trim this little piece here, and the passenger side carpet will be ready to go. So I found the front inboard bolt hole for the seat mount. Now I have to peel back all of this carpeting from here so that I can flip it over and punch the hole in it. But what I found out is got a little bit of a bubble here. Unfortunately, there's no way to prevent that because they've glued the padding onto the back of this carpet, and if I pull this back to get rid of this bump, this isn't going to reach the up slope of the floorboard in the front. So again, in my humble opinion, I would rather them give me carpet separately from the pad and let me put the pad where I feel the pad needs to be, and let me then put the carpet over top of that. So what I'm going to be doing here for a while, and I'm going to cut the video off, basically, as you can see, and this one I've got to punch through for the front seat mount inboard. I've got to go through padding and carpet. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll do the inboard one, the outboard one, same way. But I'll put the bolt in place so that it's as good as it can get, and go from there. So I've got the final seat mount bolt located. I'm going to pull that up and try and punch that through. And let me just say it again. If you have an option to get the padding separated from the carpet, do it. I'm going to say that 90% of the difficulty I've had in putting this carpet in is due to the padding being there, and I have to cut it while it's attached to the pad, or I have to put a hole in it while it's attached to the carpet rather. And if I could have laid that down separately, I might have glued that down so it didn't move as I was putting the carpet in, but it would have been so much easier to deal with just the carpet and the pad separately. So I'm going to go punch that last hole through and see how my door threshold fits. Okay, it turns out that I thought that I left a little bit too much on the carpet right here under the threshold. But it turns out that this threshold has a hump up here, and that little bit of excess that I thought might be a problem just tucked nicely up inside there, and that's going to be great. So I'm going to screw down this threshold, and except for the trim panel that goes here, which I'm going to have to clean up before I put on, this is going to be done. Well, the forepart. Still have that one piece that goes on the riser in the back of the seats. And one thing I did want to mention, which is really when I turned the video back on here, is when I put these two bolts in, or holding it for the seat mount, the ones that were in there were about 1 inch long, and they were too short, especially on the other side where I was trying to go through padding and carpet, and then the threaded part is actually down under it a little bit, so it wasn't long enough. I wasn't able to catch the thread, and especially after I add another 1/4 inch of steel for the seat mount, that wasn't going to work. It's not easy. So that's the name of that tube. Okay. More of the same on the driver's side, so I'm not going to bother to video that since the techniques I'm going to use are all the same. So I'll be back if there's something interesting I need to point out, or some major discovery that I've made. Hopefully everything will go smoothly on the driver's side, but there's the driver's side panel, which has padding glued to the back, and actually it might be a little worse than that because there's plastic places for your heel and toe there that they appear to be stitched in. And this is interesting because on the passenger side, there was a cutout here that was supposed to be for the seatbelt or the seat mount, but when I stuck it in and find the hole, it was way up in here, way up in the corner, so it wasn't a very accurate cutout for it. And I had to go through padding and carpet on the interior mount, and this one, once I flip it over, looks like I'm going to have to go, well, that's the same. Okay, that's the same. Padding and carpeting on the inside. And then this is the plastic thing I was saying that is stitched on, so if you have to remove that padding, good luck. Hopefully this will be fitting a little bit better than it did on the passenger side, because frankly I'm getting tired of dealing with this carpet, and I got this piece and the riser piece in back of the seats to go. Here's an interesting thing I found on the driver's side. This is the bolt for the passenger side seat mount. That's the one for the driver's side. And this is the one I ended up going and getting to put in on the passenger side so that it was easier to thread, because I couldn't reach through the carpet and the padding and into this threaded screw hole. So what I'm finding out on the driver's side is there's a lot of more excess it's about the same over on the door jamb side, which I don't think you saw. It's about the same. I think that's about what I took off. But over on the console side, I'm going to have to remove quite a bit of material here. And I started to mark it, and then I realized I hadn't pushed this down into the corner. So be very careful that you get that into the corner so you don't cut too much off. So I'm going to pull that back out. Oh, the other thing is make sure you go under the gas pedal. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to try to trim it a little better and see what I can do after it's trimmed. That ought to make it a little bit easier to work with. So I think I've learned a lesson with working with the driver's side that I didn't know on the passenger side. I've got it fitted up under the pedals, gas pedal, brake pedal, and there's a dimmer switch pad on there. I've got that all where I want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right there at the front and put the two seat mounts in, and it'll be easy to flip this back part up and work on it because it doesn't have any padding under it. So I was fighting with pulling the pad out on the other side, and if I had started with the front bolts, I think it would have been a little bit easier. So there's the driver's side floor carpeting installed. I did not put the sill plate on the entryway there because in looking at the piece that needs to go up under the inside of the, I guess it's the front kick panel there, that needs to go underneath the sill plate, so I'll put that on before I put the sill plate on this side. I'll have to remove it on the other side because I didn't do it that way. But working from front to back was somewhat easier. The punching of the holes with those punches worked pretty well when you only had to do the carpet. When you had to do a layer of the padding and the carpet, it didn't work quite as well or near as well. I had to rip some of the padding out, and even then it interfered with being able to punch a good hole. So you can take that for what it's worth, and that's going to be it for the video for the carpet on the floor.